But here's the worst problem of all. It turns out, it's called the sequence problem. If you can't just get these amino acids, you can't just put them all together willy-nilly. That's the scientific term, okay? You can't put them together there's an order or sequence to how they go so that at the end, they fold properly so they can do their function, like a hat or something. This would be a terrible hat, actually. Just like that kinesin protein that walks along and carries the cargo, it has to be set up in such a way so it folds and does its job, okay? It turns out these amino acids, there are 20 left-handed to make up life, they have to be in a certain sequence. They act like letters of the alphabet. It would be like 20 letters of the alphabet. And just like alphabetical letters have to be in a certain sequence to spell out words, in the same way, these amino acids are in a certain sequence to spell out your protein, okay? So we could take some letters, and this says, here's a good command to my children, be kind to your mom. Be kind to your mom. But I could take those same letters and mix them up a little bit, and now I have the command, me mink bo Todd. If I told my kids that, they would think I was having a serious problem, okay? Like, we need to call the doctor, okay? Right? And so you could see here, the sequence of the letters matters, and it turns out the sequence of the amino acids in our protein matter as well. Here's a way to think of it. Imagine there's only 3 letters in our whole alphabet, and those 3 letters are O, D, and G, okay? Now, it turns out, if we want to use those 3 letters and only make 3-letter words, we can make how many words? Well, you could make 3 times 3 times 3, or 3 to the power of 3, which is 27 different words. The problem is most of those aren't real words, right? Well, how many real words are there? Well, it turns out in this collection of letters, you can make the word odd, God, dog, and goo. Apparently goo's a real word, okay? And your odds are really a 1 in, 7, something like that you'll get a real word if you just randomly picked out Scrabble letters and it was only 3 of them. Okay? Well, it turns out some of the sequences of our left-hand amino acids, some of them will produce real words or real proteins that will fold, but most of them won't. And there was a chemist, a biochemist, Cambridge University, Doug Axe, and he actually came up with a number. And he said the odds of getting the sequence right that will fold for a protein for life in this situation are 1 in 10 to the 74th power. That's a 1 followed by 74 zeros. Now, I want you to listen to this. This kind of sequence-specific information, this always comes from a mind. For example, if I saw this sequence of letters on my fridge, I would think nothing of it. Maybe my 2-year-old was just throwing fridge magnets against the wall, against the fridge, okay? And the laws of magnetism, they're just doing their thing, holding them there. But if I saw this sequence on the fridge, it would be foolish, right, for me to think that that was caused by the laws of magnetism and chance. No, that sequence produces a message which is a mark of intelligence. So how do I know it's intelligence? Because it's the sequence. It's called, by the way, specified complexity. High improbability, and it fits an independently given pattern, a message, right? Pick up the girls, love Stacy, my wife. That tips me off to design. So we've got 3 problems that we got to get around if you're a naturalist, if you're an atheist. You got the chirality problem, you have the bonding problem, and the sequence problem. When you put those together, the chances of getting our single protein, this is not life, it's just a protein that's 150 amino acids long, is 1 chance in 10 to the 164th power.
At Stand to Reason, we help Christians think clearly as they share their worldview with others. If you want to see more videos like this, click the subscribe button.